Gambir, a successful young artist from Indonesia, is recognized for his sculptures of pregnant women. Some of the statues turn out to be creepy, but that makes them even more in demand among art lovers. The day comes when Gambir holds his first exhibition and his sculptures are once again admired by rich buyers. But despite the acclaim, the guy is not feeling well. He goes outside to be alone for a while. Talida, the artist's wife, comes to him to find out what happened and to support her husband. But Gambir only apologizes to the girl, without explaining what exactly ruined his mood. The next morning, Talida prepares breakfast for her husband, talking to his mother. The woman discusses the guy's problems, and from their conversation it becomes clear that Gambir can't have children and it makes him sad all the time. When the artist himself arrives for breakfast, the women change the topic of conversation. From over breakfast, they discuss the usual plans for the day. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Opening it, Gambir sees no one, and only on the pavement in front of his house there is an inscription with a request for help. The guy's day goes as usual. He plays tennis with his friends and goes home. But this time on the way he is again struck by memories of how his wife was pregnant by him many years ago, when they were not married yet. Back then, the girl didn't want to have the baby, and despite all the entreaties of her fiancé, she made the decision to terminate the pregnancy. Agreeing to the bride's conditions, Gambir personally took her to the hospital, and during the procedure he sat near the room. When it was over, Talida came out to him with a bag in which the doctor handed her the remains of the newborn baby for the couple to dispose of for their consideration. At home, Talida made a strange request of her fiancé. She begs him to keep their child and make a statue of a pregnant woman to be the vessel for the remains. Gambir realizes that this is madness and he refuses the sinister idea, but seeing that his wife is literally going crazy, the guy agrees to fulfill her strange wish. For several days, the artist makes a statue, and at the end he hides his unborn child in its belly. After a while, their old friend appears in the house of young people, and the statue attracts his attention. The man himself cannot explain what it is about her that attracts him so much. Gambir tells about the friend's reaction to his fiancée, and she persuades the artist to make a few more of these pregnant sculptures, which the guy agrees to do, hoping to attract more customers. But the girl insists that they are not just statues, each of them must also contain a fetus, because that is what makes them attractive. Not understanding why, but Gambir obeys, and now he creates sculptures every day, and at night the guy drives to the clinic to buy a bag of embryos. The statues start getting recognized, and pretty soon they are all bought up, leaving the guy with an empty warehouse and a sense of grandeur. Seeing the groom's success, Talida's father builds a large exhibition hall and gives it to the artist, giving his consent to his marriage to his only daughter, and becomes the guy's manager. Gambir continues to create unusual sculptures. One day, having accidentally dropped an object, the artist has to push back a cupboard to retrieve it, and behind it he discovers a secret door he had not known about before. Gambir is about to smash the door, but at that moment his wife appears and asks the artist not to do it. Otherwise they will have to separate and never see each other again. The sculptor once again obeys his wife and leaves the door alone, returning to his work. At the same time, a bound boy is lying somewhere on the floor. It was he who left the inscription on the pavement outside Gambir's house, but the boy never realized who needed his help. The next day, Gambir gets a fortune cookie and a note in a cafe, which makes him remember about the inscription. He looks around and sees the same words on a billboard in the center of town. Gambir finds the same lines on a scrap of paper on his tennis bag and demands that his friends confess to a stupid prank, but none of them understands what it means. At this point, the artist notices a boy watching him, but as soon as he tries to ask him why he is here, the boy runs away and Gambir is nowhere to be found. At this time, we are shown a CCTV broadcast that shows the ordeal the boy is undergoing from his parents. Gambir tries to find out the truth, and underneath an old poster he again finds a plea for help. Only this time another word is written next to it. Remembering that there is a building with this name in the city, Gambir goes there, but the girl administrator does not answer questions and asks security guards to escort him out the door, explaining that the entrance is only for members of the closed club. Gambir does not go far and decides to observe. Hours later, he sees his friend Dandang enter the building and comes back out a short while later. The artist catches up with his buddy and asks him to tell him about the club, but his friend says he can't divulge information about what goes on inside. Gambir then decides to become a member of the club in order to get inside and find out the truth. He fills out all the necessary forms, after which he is given a private room with a TV and a program by which he can choose a reality show. On one of the channels, the guy sees a lonely old lady, but on the other channel, the very boy Gambir saw appears. The boy stares silently at the camera for a while, but then his mother appears in the frame and treats her son rudely, and Gambier turns off the TV, unable to bear the sight. Meeting a friend on the street, Gambier demands an explanation, but the friend can only tell him that they have no influence on what is happening, and they are only available to watch strange stories. The artist decides to find the boy's home and save him. To do this, he regularly visits his room in the club, watching the boy suffer because of his parents. Each time after watching, the sculptor tries to find clues, but he is not one step closer to the boy's whereabouts. It's time to hold another exhibition, and as usual, there are a lot of spectators gathering in the hall who buy up the sculptures in between the minutes of the presentation. Gambier realizes that everyone gathered is discussing the same boy, which means they are all members of the club. One of the men tells him that in the last broadcast he saw the mother drowning the boy, and now he's not sure if the main character is alive. But the second guest assures him that the script says that everything will end with an electric shock. Hearing this, Gambier runs away from the exhibition. He comes to the club and taking his place in the room, the artist turns on the TV in the hope of seeing the boy alive and unharmed. Fortunately, the boy appears on the screen, and surprisingly he turns out to be very calm. But after a few seconds it becomes clear that his calmness is not good. He takes a knife and goes to his parents' bedroom, where he puts a stop to his ordeal while the sculptor tries to come to his senses, realizing that there is nothing he can do to help either the boy or his parents. The boy tries to say goodbye to his life as well. Gambier is in despair because he can't help him, but gathering his strength, he checks the television program and finds a new interesting channel. On it, the sculptor sees his mother and wife. The women do business in the kitchen and again discuss Gambier's infertility, after which the boy's mother says that she should give birth to someone else, such as one of her husband's friends. The girl is not at all offended by such a suggestion and spends the night with Gambier's friend. The next scene Gambier sees shows him the wife talking to her father, dreaming of taking the artist's business and splitting his money after they get rid of him. Realizing that his wife never loved him like everyone else, she just wanted his fame and money, Gambier cooks up a plan to get revenge on all the traitors at once. Leaving the club, the artist calls all his relatives and friends and invites them to spend time together, and after that the guy buys weapons and prepares a party. Gambier decorates his house in a special beautiful way. The guy happily welcomes the guests by seating them in the seats of honor. When everyone is finally relaxed, the sculptor goes to the kitchen for wine, to which he adds a paralyzing poison to finally get to the main part of the evening. All the guests are paralyzed. They see and hear everything that is going on around them, but they can't move. Turning on the music, the owner of the house takes a knife and starts walking around the guests, reminding everyone of all the evil that was revealed to him through the show. The guy leaves only his wife alive, having prepared a gun for her. By this time, the wife can already speak, and she asks her spouse to keep her alive, promising to reveal the secret of the door behind the closet. The guy hesitates for a moment, but then he remembers his spouse's treason, which he has learned about, and shoots. After all this, the sculptor goes to the secret door and smashes it with an axe. To the guy's surprise, behind it he sees the very room in which lived a boy who was unlucky with his parents. It becomes clear that that boy all this time was Gambier himself, or rather his childhood memories. Ever since, as a child, he had killed his parents, Gambier had been living in a mental institution, and he had never been a sculptor. It had all been his fantasy, gleaned from the newspaper articles he was sometimes given to read. Also a fantasy was his wife, who he made up after meeting the journalist Ronnie, and friends who actually work at the clinic as orderlies. And the club actually exists, only it was never a place of entertainment and has been a clinic for mentally ill people for years. This is where the movie ends. Write in the comments what you think about it.